Hello and welcome to From the BLM, the Burnley podcast. It's sweltering hot weather in Burnley, unseasonable, I would suggest, even for July and August. But there's four of us here tonight. Myself, Andrew Greaves, Justin Connolly, Paul Woodhouse and Chris Boden. Simon Evans is in Paris still, covering the swimming. He'll be probably reporting on that French lad everyone's banging on about, Leon Marchand or whatever he's called, Marchand, who I'd never heard of until a couple of days ago, and now I wake up hearing his name in my ears because he's a bit of a phenomenon. But there we go. We've not got that much of Olympic fever, but we have got football fever. We are only just a couple of weeks away from the start of the new Championship season. I went for a pint earlier today and noticed on the TV that the Scottish season starts this weekend. These summer breaks do appear to be getting shorter. Not masses to discuss apart from plenty of rumours, and the lads are out in Girona. Look to be having a fine time in the sunshine, all in sleeveless vest tops and things. But yeah, we'll kind of crack on and see what we can get out of our esteemed panel. Let's start then with that trip to Girona. Of course, one of the only public friendly is this Sunday. Against Cadiz. They'll be travelling south from Girona to the province of Cadiz for that particular friendly. No details yet about whether we'll be able to see it. I know a couple of the games last year we could watch on a kind of paid-for stream. Chris, I know this is a bit of a bugbear of yours, these kind of lack of public friendlies, and you've been lucky enough to join squads in previous years on foreign jaunts, but this will be the first chance that anyone really, whether it's just those who travel to Cadiz or whether we do get a stream somewhere online, be the first chance for us to really see what a Scott Parker Burnley side looks like, won't it?
Yeah, I think everyone wants to see. They want to see a couple of new faces. They want to see the new strip, and we want to see what sort of setup. Is he going to sort of stick to the same formula throughout the campaign? Has he got a few different options up his sleeve? It's like Eddie Howe. You can watch his sessions and they'd alternate back threes, back fives, back fours. Really hard to pick Eddie Howe at time. You watch his sessions, etc. And but yeah, it is. I am disappointed that the vast majority of Burnley fans won't have an opportunity to see the side in action. It is a bugbear. I mean, I've been really, really fortunate in years past, and pretty much the brainchild of Steve Cottrell. That when he went to Stoke in a really short-lived time at Stoke, he invited the local media there, Martin Spink, Stoke Sentinel, and he thought it was a good way to sort of assimilate the squad with, to get used to the local media. And so there was some sort of relationship. You've got to be in a position where you can, criticise, give constructive criticism in your copy. But we formed a really tight bond with that group in particular. The Robbie Blakes, the Steve Caldwells, Clark Carlisle, Duffo, all these characters, J-Rod. Lucky enough that myself and Darren Bentley playing tennis with J-Rod and Carl Lafferty one time in a camp in Austria, and you do pull for the players. You might not sort of know them, and you do even though I'm naturally a Burnley fan. You pull for these guys as human beings. You want them to do well, and obviously when they're playing for your club, it's even better. But that's similar sort of bonds with the the team that Sean Dyche had, etc. The Tom Eatons, Trips, Danny Ingses and all that. It makes a difference, and I can't see sort of current the current crop of journalists won't have anything like the relationship with a lot of these players, or a lot of which haven't done much in the way of media, because there are certain language barriers, etc. I would imagine some aren't too confident in front of the in front of the media, etc. But yeah, different times, isn't it? It's I think it's long gone, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and Woody, one of the biggest kind of criticisms last season, I think, from all of us was that disconnect, wasn't it? We didn't feel like that Vincent Kompany Premier League squad. We didn't feel any connection with it because it felt like this kind of ragtag of individual players thrown together, etc. I know kind of, we're in that kind of period where we do get quite a lot of content from the club. Again, something else we whinged about, the lack of content. We're getting these daily videos of players playing darts and chess, if you're, Luke McNally and Scott Twine, both of which have been linked with a move to Bristol City, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But, getting them down and kind of, I remember the open days we used to have and, Adi Randall doing kick-ups around the whole perimeter of the pitch. It is a different time, as Chris said, isn't it? But you'd think that, a couple more public friendlies it just helps kind of form a bond, doesn't it, between players and supporters at pre-season?
It does. They seem to have gone very much by the wayside, although I did find a few from various other clubs, because that idea of, end of July, early August, the sun beating down, nobody really giving a shit about the game unless it's a Manx Cup penalty shootout or whatever. And, it all seems like slightly off, but you're slowly getting yourself back into it. Those weird little away games at non-league grounds and what have you. And it's nice that we're getting a little bit more content than we arguably got, like you said, last year. And I'm just reading through some of the comments on Up the Clarets about some of the coaching segments where Scott Parker's, one of the things that he said is no flicks, pass the ball with your instep, which seems like a very definite switch from what we were doing under Vincent last year, which was all flicks and don't bother even looking at the ball and trapping it, etc. So there's still things you can see, but it doesn't quite make up for that, £5 just popping on the turf and having a pie on a Tuesday night and the sun beating down, does it? But at least we're still seeing something.
Yeah, and the thing we're seeing now, I don't know if anyone's seen this, I've literally just gone on the club's website, images from Wednesday's cool down in the swimming pool. A group of players took a jump in the pool following Wednesday's training and gym session in the high Girona temperatures, and images from the recovery session are below. And then there's 9 pictures of players in various states of undress going in, splashing about in a pool. I mean, Justin, it's not quite, Bukayo Saka on an inflatable unicorn, but they are at least trying to give us something, aren't they, in terms of, look, you ain't with us in Girona. But it is quite nice to see, isn't it? I did quite enjoy these little snippets. We had a video earlier today as we record this on Thursday of Zeki Amdouni arriving in Girona to be greeted by his teammates. There is that, there looks to be quite a big bond, doesn't there? I think that's the thing. I think last year we heard all this talk of splits in the camp and, perhaps some of Vincent Kompany's tactics or decisions being quite divisive. This does look like a squad that appears to enjoy being around each other, doesn't it?
Well, it would appear so. I mean, from the sort of footage that I've seen, there's a lot of smiling going on. Both in training and when they're messing about outside training, playing darts or whatever. I mean, it's just I take everybody's point about actually watching them play, and I think that would. I used to enjoy the no pressure pre-season games in the sunshine, especially if they managed to attract a big side to come along, and we could see some either future potential stars or some current potential stars. But this is the modern way, isn't it? This is how we engage with our audience. Everybody's doing it. We do it through a screen now, and we've probably learned more about the new signings, watching them have a game of table tennis with each other than we would do from a game. You know, that I quite like those sort of there's sort of 10-minute films that they put out with you know, snatches of training, and I think Woody sort of mentioned there that you can pick up a little bit of a feel about what they're trying to do on the pitch, on the training ground. And then that's interspersed with like off-pitch stuff where they're just, you know, like you say, playing chess and having a laugh, and then there's little bits of interviews dropped in, and I think that's a really quite a nice way to do it, a nice way to introduce these new players, a nice way to see how they interact with each other, a nice way to see what kind of personalities they are. You know, you get a little bit of insight into it, don't you? It doesn't replace seeing a game. I'm not sure whether preseason games ever show you a great deal about what might happen in the season proper. I mean, I don't know. Last season, the player of the game in the preseason game that we all watched on TV was Andrew Townsend, wasn't it? And he didn't even sign for us. So what the point in that was, I don't know. So I'm not sure whether it gives you a clue, but it does allow you to forge that connection, doesn't it? Not just with the players, but with the club. And you're back on the ground again, and you're in your seat with the season ticket holders that you know from the, you know, and you can have a chat about. It's like reconnecting, reconvening in the sort of the church of Burnley, isn't it? You know what I mean? So I do miss that, but you know, we'll get that on the first home game of the season anyway. It just would be nice to be able to do it before the rains come.
Yeah, definitely. And Chris, I mean, Justin mentioned there that we can't take too much from the actual games, can we? I think we were both in the Isle of Man when we got beat by the Isle of Man 1-0 and then went on to finish 7th, I think it was, in the Championship. You know, we just got promoted from what is now League One, then got beat 1-0 at the Douglas Bowl, I think it was, by the Islanders, first professional team to lose there. But just it's that almost kind of, I don't know if it's learning as match day routines again, but it is that kind of, you know, I know exactly what time I'm going to have to stand up to let the guy next to me get through, and it is that kind of, you know, coming out of hibernation almost, and it's a bit of pre-season training for the fans almost. You know, can we still do 3 pints before the game and not need a piss midway through the first half? You know, is the doner kebab sausage rolls going to be, you know, available? Is the pies going to be shit? You know, we need a bit of pre-season training ourselves, don't we, sometimes? And it's almost that kind of, you know, and I see all these things on TikTok and social media of, you know, Arsenal versus Liverpool in Tokyo and Man City versus Barcelona. You know, it's not just Burnley. The whole game appears to be this, like, you know, we ain't doing it for the kind of, you know, the old-fashioned way of, you know, let's introduce the new signings before a pre-season friendly and, you know, play 2 sides of 11 across 90 minutes kind of thing, are we? You know, the whole game has gone a bit different.
But can you remember playing, I think it was Chelsea, we played on the turf in 2001 when they just, you know, the things were really starting to tick over at Chelsea then. I think like they just signed like William Gallas and people like that, and they changed like all 11 at once, you know, in one hit during the second half, and it's a nightmare for anyone taking the names and numbers down and who's changed when and where. But I could completely understand sort of a lot of these games are sort of the training exercises. I can see why a lot of gravitating behind closed doors, and there's certain things that you don't want opponents to see, etc. But I'd just like to see, maybe one, sort of, kept relatively local. If they're going to have one for fans who can make, I mean, it's going to be fabulous for those who can make the trip over this weekend. There's no doubt it'd be glorious weather, a few beers, a bit of a mini break, and a game of football thrown in as well. But you always seem to sort of tailor pre-season. You try. Everyone would get a certain amount of minutes, but as it got closer to the season, you'd start to see what we think is the first team sort of emerging now, and you'd sort of things that, like I say, things that they tried in pre-season. And I always remember Eddie sort of starting with the fullbacks really high, trying to sort of emulate that Barcelona style, splitting the centre halves and and really trying to hammer that home over a series of sort of localish pre-season games. You're starting on a camp in Bath and moving closer to home. In fact, I can remember I think it was someone put the other day, it might have been 12 years since Vokesy signed. And I think we were at Bath City that night, and I was sat next to Warren Aspinall. And, I'm sure there's some people who remember Warren Aspinall's playing career, and, it's a very, very sort of tragic story, almost took his own life and before thinking better of it. And he ended up working at the time. He was working for Southampton as a scout. And I just asked him, I said, how's Danny Fox getting on? Danny Fox had been at Southampton for a year then. He said, never mind, Danny Fox. He says, we've got this lad here called Luke Shaw. And it's little snippets like that. Again, I mean, I always kept an eye out for Luke Shaw after that, and obviously he's gone on to have an exceptional career sort of thing. But yeah, it's like Justin said, you might see a star in the making. I remember watching him in a pre-season game when he was like 17, 18, and J-Rod at Wrexham, if everyone remembers. The summer he'd signed a pro deal. I think it's 2007. And we get a penalty at Wrexham, and I think Steve Jones, there was a couple haggling over the penalty. J-Rod at 17 takes it off the lot of them, slots it, consummate ease, and showing the sort of, how clinical he's always been from the spot, how confident he's always been in his own ability. And like again, we've seen that all the way through his career. I'll never forget that. It's just little things like that stick in the mind. But like I say, times have changed, but that's it. I will say the content's been top drawer. England have set the standard in terms of bringing that content to supporters, and I've been very impressed with the way Burnley have sort of picked that up and run with it, and I say bringing the fans a real insight that they wouldn't, even through the newspapers, being away on tour, you might get little snippets, but not to the extent of that. It's been really first class.
Yeah, and Woody, just talking about that, there's a really good interview with Anna Sarori on the club website. Again, I think it must have come on quite late this afternoon because I didn't spot it earlier. But he basically says, "I'm very happy to be back. I've finished the season a little earlier. Can't have too much time not training. Happy to come back to Burnley." And he quite pointedly he said, once a new gaffer came in, everything's been good. He's been clearing what he wants for us. I think from there on, we started working well together, very organised. He's talking very positively. Now, he was obviously somebody who we were really surprised didn't get much of a shot. Obviously, his season got off to a bit of a stuttering start with the red card against City. But it does feel like the likes of him and Bastian and Benson, who scored one of his trademark efforts against Newcastle. In fact, it was probably more than his trademark because he did a bit more to score it. People like Obafemi's back, Scott Twine's back, Bastian's back. It feels like there's been a completely, clean slate wiped, and every player who we've got in that squad, and it is a big squad, is getting the chance to impress the new boss. And that's quite heartening to see, isn't it? Because there may be one or two players who, absolutely might not have been good enough for the Premier League, but actually, if we launch a bid to get back there, will prove really invaluable in the Championship. Yeah,
I think you nailed it all there. Like the rumours that, and it became quite a lot of noise, didn't it, towards the end of last season as to all the various cliques and various folks not getting on. And, as we said before, how people were falling out. And it is that clean slate. And with such a big squad and with such a talented squad as well, who we just felt it, like you say, Zaruri and Benson, etc. Just seeing people were jettisoned. And the pictures that you see of him signing young lads' kits, etc., seems to be smiles back on faces of players who looked a little bit dour and who'd been, sent elsewhere to do other things. So it's nice that all those people are obviously getting a chance and they're making the right noises about a new manager, which is what you'd expect. You wouldn't expect them to say, "This is a sack of shit, I'm off." There might be one or two who are thinking along those lines. But it seems to be that, the players that we'd want to see again this year, and obviously have something to offer, not just prove, but to offer, because we know that they've done it before, seem to be in the right frame of mind and seem to be in the frame, which can only bode well.
Yeah, definitely. And Justin, I know you don't like talking about Vincent Kompany, so we will keep this brief. But talking of pre-season, it was interesting that I saw that Bayern Munich beat Rottach Egern, I think I pronounced that right, 14-1. And a lot of the talk was how that 14-1 win should prove a bit of a worry for Vincent Kompany, because Rottach Egern, I've definitely butchered that, are a ninth division team that they seem to play every pre-season. I remember being on a stag do in Berlin, going back to the room, nodding off as the game kicked off and waking up having, to a final score of 19-0. They apparently play this team every year, very rarely concede, usually at kind of 19. I think last season or the season before they beat them 27-0. But this was the kind of, Vincent Kompany should be worried because they only scored 14 and they conceded against this ninth tier. I guess that just shows the absurdity, A, of pre-season friendlies against lower league opposition, but B, kind of the absurdity of us actually thinking that pre-season means anything, doesn't it? It's a bit,
Not with respect to this particular game, obviously. I mean, our games don't really mean anything, but if Vincent Kompany's shipping goals against sides that they previously failed to ship any goals against, then if I was a Bayern Munich fan, I'd be very, very worried right now.
I've just checked. Yeah, last season it was 27-0. Both teams have played
it's all downhill
matches
from there.
Yeah, apparently they played 3 matches since 2018 and have ended 70 goals to 2 aggregate score in favour of Bayern Munich. That sounds like our record against Man City, doesn't it, Chris?
Well, I did see the Bayern lineup, and I think it wasn't a first-team lineup by any stretch. I mean,
no, Musiala's still missing. Lots of the Euros lads still missing, but
that's ninth tier. Yeah.
That's how he does it, though, isn't it? He didn't play Burnley's first team in the Premier League.
I'm trying to work out what ninth tier is in England. If fifth is the Conference North, Unibon.
Well, Charlie
Prem,
Austin
Unibon
just signed for
it's
Tatton,
Paddy's level, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, I think so. Yeah, Charlie Austin has just signed for somebody. Is it Tatton FC? Tottenham FC? AFC Tottenham, which I think are
Totnes or something. No, for a day, that neck of the woods.
or ninth tier, I think. Southern League Premier Division. This live fact checking. Actually, that's level 7 and 8. So Vincent Kompany's Bayern Munich played a team lower than the team that Charlie Austin's just signed for. Quite interesting, isn't it? But these are the kind of friendlies. I used to love it when, we used to alternate between Hyde and Altrincham because they used to split the squad and take half to one, half to the other. And, you'd spend your days watching them, split friendlies on a Saturday, usually in the sunshine. Let's move on to some rumours, because there's 1 or 2 rumours floating about. Sander Berge being linked with a move to Turkey. Chris, you, before we came on, found some absurd Twitter account linking him to a move to Man United, which, seems a little bit beyond, reality. There is this rumour that, Burnley are looking to bring in a Bristol City striker, and it's perhaps going to be a swap deal with Scott Twine and McNally. It is a bit funny season, isn't it, in terms of kind of rumours. I think we're looking at Tommy Conway at Bristol City. We've not got many incoming rumours apart from that Tommy Conway one, but there's still 1 or 2 just bubbling under. I think our friend Steve Estev has been linked with a few Premier League clubs. Wolves apparently asking for the details, according to Fab. But do you expect much movement between now and the end of the window? Do you think everything's going to come at once, Chris? I mean, you're used to the rhythm of these transfer windows, aren't you?
Well, I think we'll have to sort of really hold on to our hats here, because there'll be a lot of players that Burnley fans, and probably Scott Parker, wants to keep hold of. And there are, envious eyes being cast upon them, aren't they? Say, Alderbert being linked with say Ipswich Town, And, Ipswich have laid out quite a few quid already, this summer. It's would they, if he's arrived for 10 or so, and enhanced his reputation, you put his age and potential into the equation. So you want a sizable return on that. Are Ipswich going to pay that? I don't know. But the Twine and McNally one makes sense. I mean, McNally's so far down the pecking order. Twine sounds like he's keen to go to Bristol City. I mean, they're managed by Liam Manning, who we worked with at MK Dons.
Yeah.
And I say I've not seen much of Conway, but it's another forward into the mix. I think he's hit double figures in the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, I think he's got 12 goals in each of his last two.
Yeah.
12, 13 goals in each of his last two championship seasons. So it feels like a kind of good fit, and we have to reduce this squad, don't we, Chris? So 2 out, exactly. 1 in feels like a good ratio, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, so the key one is Berge. I can't see a club in Turkey affording a fee, but I don't see how it would suit Burnley. I mean, like with Vegos was going that summer when he went to Besiktas. He had to play in the top tier European league, but unless Berge wants to dig his heels in, and we've seen no evidence whatsoever that he wants to throw his toys out and move back to the Premier League, a top tier in Europe. But there's no way that suits Burnley for him to spend the season on loan at Besiktas. It's just doesn't make sense. Esteve, he's had 6 months in the Premier League and acquitted himself really well, and I can see why there would be. He's got a turn of pace. He did really well, didn't he? Sort of interceptions, sort of reading the game. I could see why there'd be a lot of interest in him. But again, it'd take a few quid to for Burnley to part ways with him. But I've got to be honest. I mean, I did like Esteve, but if you've got Bayer there and we've got Ekdal there, and O'Shea's another one's been linked with a move away.
Alderkeel's still there, isn't he?
Alderkeel, who's there's an absolute embarrassment of riches. But there's, I certainly don't. If Berge stays, I think we're in, we're in real, we're in clover sort of thing.
Yeah. And Justin, is Berge the one? I mean, there's lots of players who, excite us. Your Odegaards, your Koleoshos, your potentially Amdounis. These players who are that little trick and turn of pace. But I get this feeling that kind of Berge is that, keep at all costs. Would you agree with that? Is Berge the one you'd kind of, really, really, really be holding out for to try and keep as a key member of that kind of engine room?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, don't forget we've lost Jack Cork, haven't we? So we're down numbers wise on that part of the pitch. We're as Chris says, we've got an embarrassment of riches at centre back. So losing a couple of those, whichever ones they are, really, is not going to make a massive dent in our ability to put, a good central defensive partnership together throughout the course of the season. I don't think. I still think. I mean, we said at the start of last season that we were still a bit light in the centre of the pitch, and I think even with Berge coming in, we still could have done with another body in there. So but I think now that Jack Cork's gone and we haven't brought anybody in to replace him, I think Berge is going to be a key player. I think it will depend on the two things that Chris has mentioned. Can anybody afford him? We want to get our money back on him at least. And does he want to go? Does he fancy a season in the Championship? Does he want to put right what happened last season? He doesn't. He's not a Vegos character in the sense that you think he wants to leave. We've not seen any indication of that. He doesn't strike me as the type who'd go public with it, even if he wanted to. But I like anything else, it depends who comes in for him, how much they want to pay, and whether he wants to go. No player is indispensable. They're all replaceable in one way or another. But I think we'd all agree that what we've seen of him we like. We'd like to see him marshal that midfield in the Championship, and he would be one of the first names on the team sheet. Should we be fortunate enough to get back in the Premier League? So the answer is yes, he's a must keep.
Excellent. And would he, I mean, just in talk there about kind of wanting to see Marshall, that midfield, he grew into that role, didn't he, really? I mean, I kind of lose count of the number of debriefs where we were trying to find positives, and most weeks that positive was, well, actually, Sander Berge, had he been played properly, and I think some of his, his lack of impact at times wasn't necessarily down to, his ability. It was definitely down to the fact that we kept shunting him to centre half when we were, making weird substitutions like replacing wingers with fullbacks. You just get that impression that, in the Championship, he is that luxury player that not very many other sides have in a really key position, don't you?
Well, you're looking at him as being not just Burnley's best player, but arguably the Championship's best player. He's the kind of player who will wind up being in the Championship league team of the season, if not the best player in the season. And it's not like up front or at the back where we seem to have an abundance of riches, like everybody else has said. He's not only a great player, we don't have somebody else who's there to fill that necessarily. So I think he is indispensable, and he could be very much the difference between a startlingly good start to the season and ongoing versus maybe trying to find his way a little bit. And so I wouldn't like to see him go, I can't see him going to Turkey. I mean, I can see him going, how old is he now? Is he 26, 27, 28?
Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of that age where maybe he doesn't need to prove himself again in the Championship, because he did have that season with Sheffield United. So if he's, if there's a good offer there, and I don't see why there wouldn't be a good offer from somebody in somewhere in the Premier League, then he probably would go. But I'd definitely try and keep him at whatever cost, really.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the Clarets are in action on Sunday. We're not quite sure at the minute whether any of us will get to see that game or whether there's going to be a feed. I think from speaking to a couple of people, I think the club were trying to get a feed of some description available to fans. So hopefully we might get a bit of a chance to see what a Scott Parker Burnley looks like. Certainly the results, I think, have been encouraging, that we keep getting kind of fed. We've not been told all the results, but I believe we beat Newcastle 3-2 and drew 0-0 with Leganés, and then there were various other results against Hearts and Barnsley and various other fixtures that the club promoted, but then didn't tell us the score on very helpfully. But we will be back next week when hopefully we'll have found out a little bit about how the Clarets have played, even if it's from a 10 minutes highlights video. If any of you any listeners are going over to Cadiz, it's a beautiful city, by the way. I went a good few years ago, and I used to live over in Almeria. If anyone is going to Cadiz, then do just drop us a message on Twitter, because we're really interested in your view, and perhaps we can either get you to record something or get you on next week's show. What a treat that'd be. Until then, though, enjoy the warm, sunny weather while it lasts. Enjoy the Olympics. Enjoy trying to keep track on Burnley's game against Cadiz on Sunday. And we will see you next week. Until then, up the Clarets.
Jimmy McElroy to Upton. Go.